Gary Hands here. We've got a little bit of a comparison today. The Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 is one of the hottest micro pistols on the market right now. But is there still room for the LCP Max by Ruger? Well, for starters, as you can see, they're both unloaded. So can't hear people complain about that. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick little side-by-side here and show you guys just how similar these pistols are. As you can see, the Ruger just a hair shorter, and I do mean just a little hair. A little side-by-side here, and you can see lengthwise, Ruger is just a hair smaller than the Smith & Wesson. So the purpose of this video today is to ask a question. Well, it's to actually ask a few questions. Number one, is the $100 price delta between the two stock worth it? Two, does the LCP Max still have relevancy in a world of the Bodyguard 2.0? And three, is there a way to make the LCP Max shoot as nice or better than the Bodyguard 2.0? So that's the question that we're faced with today in this side-by-side. Now what you'll notice right out of the gate is this is the 75th anniversary edition of the LCP Max, and it is a very beautiful stainless steel slide, nice finish. You got your little 75th anniversary logo here. You also have the upgraded sights, but that's not your typical trigger. This is actually an M Carbo shoe. The original trigger shoe looked like this. I did some math, and as I mentioned before, there's a $100 price delta between these two pistols out of the gate. I have shot both of these. I like both of them for respective reasons. Both are very good. Both are very viable pistols. With a few little enhancements, the LCP Max, with the help of M Carbo, has made the pistol, in my opinion, much more shootable. So let's talk about this trigger shoe to begin with. So as you can see, you get almost a 90-degree break on it, which is really nice. Resets about here. Now, this is just the trigger shoe upgrade, mind you. I don't like changing too many of the internals on a carry gun. It just, to me, I've seen it go both ways. I've seen it work great. I've seen it work bad, and I just don't want to take this risk, especially in the case that this has now become my wife's carry pistol, and I do kind of like my wife, so that's a good thing. What we did was we changed the trigger shoe, and then we replaced the spring and stock rod with a really nice M Carbo stainless steel rod and a really heavy duty spring that makes it a little bit more reliable with cycling, but it also makes the pistol shoot a little bit softer from what I've observed. But I don't want to take anything away from Ruger at the factory. Ruger did a really nice job in the design of this pistol, and for such a small pistol, it is honestly a pleasure to shoot, relatively speaking. You have your option of your 12-round magazine, which gives you a little bit more purchase, or if you're looking for the ultimate concealability, you've got your 10-round magazine. One of the things I personally like about the Ruger is it just feels a hair thicker, even though, it's not that it's actually thicker, but rather that it's a little bit blockier in its design. Now let's talk about the grip for just a second and how that grip actually pushed me over to the Bodyguard 2.0 for my own personal carry. Just going to set this aside here. Let's talk about the BG 2.0. So for starters, the only thing that I have upgraded on here are the sights. I went with the new XS sights. These are a tremendous improvement I'll explain why. The stock sights, as you see here, blacked out rear, but you could basically kick a field goal through them. Yes, you have your tritium front sight, but as you could tell, it's really not all that bright. And when you line the two up, kind of like that, it's going to be a little hard with just hands. It's, yeah, you could see the gap. Whereas on the upgraded XS sights, it is a lot tighter. Now, I'm not sure how well this is picking up on camera, but it has much tighter tolerances between the two back here and here. We could even do a little comparison of the two holes. There we go. And you could see how much wider that stock one is from Smith & Wesson. There's a purpose to that, in my opinion. The purpose is that this gun was originally designed for very close threats, not going any distance. However, it can shoot. It is a beautiful, beautiful shooting pistol. And as you know, it is unloaded. Just verify it again. You can see where the break is. And the reset right there. So, striker, internal hammer. They both have their pros, they both have their cons. But for me, when it came to grip angle, that made all the difference in the world. I am used to cracking my wrist slightly forward. I usually carry Glocks or Shadow Systems. Those are my preference, personally. Nothing against anything from Smith & Wesson or any of the other manufacturers, but it just works for me. This has a much more natural point of aim for me on the draw than the Ruger had. The Ruger, especially when you put in the 12-round magazine, has this little bump right here. So when you grip it, look what happens, and you hunker down. That barrel tends to point a little lower. So what I found myself having to do was posture up on my grip and make my wrist more upright. My wife shoots SIGs. That is more natural for her. So this points much more naturally for her than the Smith & Wesson did. In fact, she preferred the Ruger to the Smith & Wesson just because it was more natural for her. Okay? Now, if we get to the case of the Smith & Wesson here, we look at the 12-round magazine. As you can see, you've got plenty of room on here. I mean, they did a really nice job with the ergonomics of this pistol. And how they did it was by extending out the angle of the rear grip, as you can see here when you do a little side-by-side. In fact, we'll put the Ruger on top because the Ruger is a little smaller. And when you put the two like this, you could really see, yeah, Ruger is still a touch smaller. More importantly, it's smaller where it matters the most, and that's this little piece right here. Honestly speaking, even though this is such a very small, very thin, tidy pistol, one thing I have found is that if you don't have the right holster, this will poke. This will poke out. I never had that problem with the Ruger when I carried it in appendix. So I had to change my holster a little bit, make a few modifications, and I corrected it to accommodate for just that little half inch. But that half inch really does make a difference. I wish I would have brought my CR920X down here to compare the two in terms of length, but it actually almost feels when you're carrying it that the grip is almost as long. It's kind of weird. I mean, obviously the Shadow is bigger, it's thicker, but anyway. So I just want to take a moment to just go through these together because I know there's a lot of people out there that are wondering, is the Bodyguard 2.0 worth the $100 cost over the LCP Max street price? Out of the gate, yes, but only due to its grip angle, in my opinion. When you put in the trigger shoe and the upgraded M-Carbo spring with stainless steel guide rod, you're at equal dollar. And at that point, it only breaks down to a matter of preference. And if I didn't spend the extra $100 on the excess sights, the Ruger would actually be the pistol that I shot a little better because it had a tighter tolerance on the sights. That's just, again, me. But on the draw, I still shot the Bodyguard 2.0 better. With these upgrades, if you currently have an LCP Max and you are thinking of switching to a Bodyguard 2.0, you might want to think about that because this really made a huge difference. And this is spent with my own money. I didn't have M Carbo sponsor this or anything. I just started doing some digging and research and put my own money where my mouth is. And, well, I ended up getting a absolutely enjoyable shooting little pistol with that little upgrade. So, talking about retail price, $299, although I've seen these as low as $249. In fact, I actually picked this one up for $249 from a retailer, which is funny because it's not much more than dealer cost. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But this one's, got a retail price for around $399. So let's say $299, $399, just for argument's sake. By the time you add the M Carbo stuff for $399, $399, you're even money. Add the excess sights, extra $100, $499, $399. So again, you're $100 delta when you get sights that are comparable to here. But if everything was equal, I'd say it really boils down to just the preference of your grip. Another thing that I will point out about the Ruger was the fit and finish was actually much better than I expected. Ruger usually gets dinged pretty hard for some of their bluing, and I was really impressed with how nice the matte is up on the top, the polish is on the side. Tool marks on it look hardly noticeable on the inside. It's actually a very, very clean pistol overall and very tidy package. And for $299, $249, whatever current retail prices, it's honestly a good deal. It really is. But if I had to go with something that I would carry almost every day, and I do almost carry this every day, I actually rotate a 380 between most of my 9s or 357 SIGs because this thing just shoots so well. And with the upgraded sight picture, I feel confident going beyond 15 yards with it now. So now I can engage a threat that's a little further away with confidence. The way it just anchors in my hand, the grip angle, it's all very natural for me. So, in conclusion, well, it just boils down to what you like. Yeah, I wish I had, better wisdom for you, but, hey, just remember, you're in good hands with these hands.